We want to welcome you to our podcast today. This is our launch, and we are excited about the opportunity to bring to those of you that are listening to us around the country, around the world, an opportunity to hear from some of the premier athletes and Christian artists in the country today that the secret to their success is they are grounded in the Lord Jesus Christ and have a great passion for what they do. So let me introduce to you our host today, and then I'll have Bobby Evans. And I want to introduce Bobby first. Bobby was the former general manager for the San Francisco Giants. He is a man that had great success there, 3 World Series, and certainly playoff appearances, division titles. And so we're very thankful to have him here today. Then we have Tim Gorey. Tim Gorey is the assistant superintendent for Fairfield Public Schools and also very active in his church as a leader there, as Bobby is. And then I'm Greg Davidson, senior pastor at Trinity Baptist Church. But Bobby, good to have you today, and so grateful to have our guest. Can you introduce him?
Yeah. Let me thank you and Tim for just sharing your vision for this podcast and for the ability to get some great guests. We have Chase Anderson joining us today, starting pitcher for the Toronto Blue Jays, and looking forward to hopefully the end of a time at home where we can get back to baseball. And Chase, it's just great to have you with us this morning. Good morning.
Good morning, guys. Thank you for having me on. Looking forward to this. Appreciate it.
Chase and I were talking just as we were getting ready to get on this podcast, just about the amount of preparation that guys are having to do right now, because guys have been in spring training, they've ramped up, and then they got sent home, and they've been home for a good long time. Chase, tell us about kind of your prep and anticipation if the doors reopen here.
Yeah, I mean, there's obviously lots of logistical things that's going to have to happen to get this thing going again, and other issues that are across the board. I think for me, my wife and my family, my kids, we made our way back from Florida once we heard this thing was going to happen, shutting everything down. We rented an RV, drove our way back with our dogs and stuff. Took us 3 or 4 days to get back. And then once I got back, I started back to throwing and doing some in-home workouts till our gym opened up. Then now I'm throwing sim games on Tuesdays up to 3 innings now, bullpens on Fridays, trying to emulate that routine of a 5 day schedule like it would be in a regular season, taking Saturday, Sunday off to recover and play with the kids a little bit more. But yeah, using this time to really focus on growing in my faith, really being with my kids and family, which I'm not usually there with them at this time of year. But yeah, staying prepared when baseball does hopefully start back up. I think that's the biggest thing. When there's not an unknown or a date to work to, you still got to be prepared to be ready for something, because it could happen really fast when it does and when we agree to something. So I'm looking forward to baseball coming back soon. But thankful I get to spend this time. There's always a silver lining for when things happen like this. So making sure that I make the most of it.
But a lot of times in Major League Baseball, people see the stars, the players as people that live in this dream world. You don't have real problems like everybody else does. But Bobby brought out I think a significant point that so many times one of the challenges, the big challenges, is you get traded, you have to uproot a family, you have to deal with new environments, you have to deal with different personnel. I mean, there's some critical things that you have to deal with family wise, social wise, and the business world that you're in. Could you share a little bit about the challenges related to a player, those kind of issues and other issues?
Yeah, I think a lot of people that don't understand the baseball life and getting to the major leagues is obviously a dream come true. And I would never want to do anything else with my life. I've dreamed of this since I was 5 years old as a kid. But once you get here, you understand that there's a lot of logistical things, a lot of expenses. You got to usually have a mortgage where you live in the off season, and then you have a place to rent in spring training. Then you have a place to rent in the season. Then if you have kids and dogs and animals like I do, you got to uproot them, figure out a way to get them to spring training, then to the next city, wherever that may be. Um, so I've looked at it as it's obviously these are little things that are sometimes hard to deal with, but we're very thankful that we're able to do those things. And I've been lucky that I've been traded twice. Both times have been in the off season, so I haven't had to uproot a family or um, call an apartment leasing and get that stuff done during the season, which is even tougher. So I've been thankful in that way. We had a house in Milwaukee for a couple of years. That was really cool, to have kind of a second home, if you will. So yeah, we got to really enjoy our time, from going from Arizona to Milwaukee. We really enjoyed it there, and looking forward to hopefully going to Toronto soon too. So yeah, there's a lot of logistical things people don't see behind the scenes. And my wife is, sometimes, most of the time, she's a single parent. If you think about that, because I'm gone all the time on the road during the season, she's at home with the kids, taking care of them 8 months out of the year. Then in the off season, I'm still training from usually 10 to 1 in the afternoon. So she's around the kids a lot, and people don't see that, if you don't have a wife, it's tough to do this thing with kids. So I'm very thankful to have a really good wife, and a woman by my side that really supports me, and it's really going to be, she's the hero of the bunch of you, if you want to get down to it, because I just throw the ball and bring in the money, but she takes care of the kids and raises them up and takes care of the house and all this kind of stuff. So a lot of things going behind the scenes that people don't understand, but it's definitely a blessing, and it's things you have to deal with. But yeah, we're real people, man. We do have issues.
Uh, One of the things that I've been wondering about, Chase, is you kind of have an unusual story getting into the major leagues as a pitcher. When I was in high school, I pitched, and so I have a little bit of an understanding of what it's like to stand on the mound. Um, and what would have been a dream come true for me is to get into the major leagues and win my first 5 pitching starts. And you did that, which, my understanding is pretty unusual. I think the last person who did that before you was maybe in 2006. Um, can you give us a little sense of what that felt like was there an air of invincibility about you after you
Well,
started winning 4 or 5 starts in a row right when you got into the majors?
yeah, I think the crazy thing was when I got called up, I was to Chicago, and I made my first start on Mother's Day, in 2014, and I couldn't eat the night before. I couldn't eat my breakfast the day of. I was so nervous. Went out there and was thankful enough to get through 5 innings, and I think I threw 5 and a third and got the win that day. So that was obviously a lot of fun. Then my next start, I figured out I was facing Clayton Kershaw and the Dodgers. I'm like, oh my gosh! So even not that I was nervous on my debut, but I go to my second start, I'm even more nervous when facing a future Hall of Famer, a guy I graduated high school the same year, and he went straight to the Dodgers, and I went to junior college. But seeing that and then winning that game, and then going to my next 3, I'm like, golly, um, man! I look up and I look back. That's just a blur. We won 5 games in a row, and they're all my 5 starts, and I couldn't believe what happened. We had some good offensive production in there. I think I had a few rough starts, and the offense picked me up, which is always a nice thing. But yeah, looking back at that, it's like, man, I felt like I was going to win the next 5 starts. If you think about it, like I was going to go 10-0 my first 5 starts in the big leagues, but obviously we know that didn't happen.
Right. Yeah, well, eventually you do come down, right? Like you come to
Right.
some sort of version of normalcy. When you did that, when you came off of that high and things got more regular, um, how much of a challenge was that for you to kind of deal with losing, and
Yeah.
and how do you respond to that?
Yeah, I think that's the hardest thing. That's when you gain that experience in the big leagues and how to go with the ebbs and flows of the game of baseball. Um, losing the next, I don't know if it was a couple starts or what it was. I don't exactly remember. But when you lose your first start, it's very humbling too. It's like, okay, how do I make sure that this experience, for me, I grow from this and learn from this. How can I be better my next time out? So that's kind of when I really dug into some preparation things, watching some more video, doing a little bit better scouting report, just kind of fine tuning my craft. And I'm still doing that to this day. My 4 days in between my starts to really make myself a better pitcher. And as this game has gone on and I've been lucky to play, I've kind of evolved as a pitcher with some of the things that I do as a pitcher. So yeah, it was definitely humbling. And I think the biggest thing is like looking back, I talked to a few guys. I wasn't supposed to be in the big leagues that long. I was going to come up for a spot start or two, but supposedly they couldn't send me down because I won my first 5 starts. You know what I mean? So I think God had his hand in this whole thing. If you think about it that way, then I was lucky to stay in the big leagues the rest of the year, and I haven't been back to the minor league since. So God's definitely taken care of me as my career has continued to go. go on, and I look forward to hopefully playing, a few more years and seeing what he has for me. But yeah, those first five starts were definitely awesome. But then learning from those five starts, going through some valleys later on with some losses is really where you grow and learn yourself as a pitcher and how you can get better.
Well, I loved hearing how you're getting prepared for the reinstatement of the game here, and hopefully that happens soon. And as a front office employee or a general manager or any baseball ops employee, it's great to have the veteran players that know how to get themselves ready. I mean, it's so hard to as a front office, we can't do it for guys, and we can
Right.
only give so much guidance from a strength and conditioning perspective and a medical perspective. Ultimately, and a baseball perspective, ultimately, guys have to do it themselves. So it's great for the Blue Jays, I'm sure, to know that they have veteran a guy like yourself not only getting ready, but also the ability to come into camp ready to go. But back up for a minute, because we're about to, in a couple of weeks, we're going to have the draft, and it's going to be an unusual draft. I mean, they're only doing 5 rounds. You went through the draft and were drafted, I think, 3 times, if that's
Correct.
right, and very unusual. I mean, it's not uncommon to get drafted twice. You get drafted maybe once out of high school, and then you get drafted once out of college, and you usually sign the second time. You were drafted 3 times, and it was the third time that you actually signed. So, uh, tell us about your draft experience, and what advice would you give for guys that are getting ready for the draft now?
Yeah, that's a great question. Well, my dad and I grew up in rural Wichita Falls, Texas. Marty Esposito was a Twins area scout there. Saw me pitch in Midland against Midland Lee out in Midland, Texas. I think maybe my senior year. We were a 4A school at Ryder High School, and Midland Lee was a 5A school. They had Conrad Flynn on the mound. I heard of his name, really good pitcher, and I pitched a really good game, and I guess that's kind of what put me on the map. So we didn't really know much about the process. The Twins drafted me my senior year in the 42nd round, and I think that was the last year of the draft and follow process. I'm sure, Bobby, you know
Yeah, that's
what that
right.
is. So I chose to go to junior college for that one year. The Twins followed me, had my rights, and then they drafted me again the 40th round. I just didn't feel like I was polished enough, ready enough to go into professional baseball. And looking back, I'm thankful that I didn't go and sign to go into professional baseball at that time. Then lucky enough, I got a scholarship to go to the University of Oklahoma for 2 years. Pitched there for 2 years. Then got drafted by the Arizona Diamondbacks in the ninth round. Got drafted a little bit higher. And I was always my goal was to get in the top 10 rounds. It wasn't really the money thing; it was really the top 10 rounds. I feel like back then, once you got in the top 10 rounds, you got more of an opportunity to kind of become the player you wanted to be. And then I got into the minor leagues and kind of worked my way up and had some one injury, and then went back to Double A. Then got called up to the big leagues. So my journey wasn't smooth sailing. My goal was always just to improve and go to the next level each year and not try to go backwards. So yeah.
I had a cousin that actually was the American League Rookie of the Year with the A's. I'm sorry, Bobby, he was on the wrong side of the bay. I don't know how that happened. But I talked to him about how intimidating it was to pitch against all stars, future Hall of Famers. And he told me, he said, look, there's no intimidation. Even if the guy's batting 300, I get him out 2/3 of the time. How do you deal with the mental pressure of pitching against guys that like Trout and others who are all stars, future Hall of Famers? How do you deal with that mentally?
That's a great question. I think facing guys like that, you understand that the reason they're that good is they don't miss mistake pitches. They don't go up there without a plan. They definitely have a really good approach. And for me, to put those guys on the defensive fast as I can, and that's getting strike one initially and showing them that, okay, I'm not here to kind of nitpick the corners of the plate and get 2-0, or you even get even a better chance of being successful off me. So if you can get ahead of those guys, and all guys for that matter, you have a lot better chance of being successful and pitching deeper in a game. But I think you have to go into there and understand that, like, okay, these guys are here for a reason. I'm here for a reason. I belong here. I'm facing this guy for a reason. So it's game on. It's battle between me and him. Let's see what you got, kind of thing. I'll never forget my first strikeout was Adam Dunn in the big leagues, and I'm like, I look up after the game, this guy's over 400 home runs. I'm like, oh my gosh. the thing was, I attacked him. I wasn't scared to attack him. You have to have that mentality. You cannot be scared, because if they see any kind of timid or any kind of anxiety, they're going to make sure and take advantage of that. So for me, it was just attack guys. And I kind of look back, and I think I faced Trout my rookie year twice, and I think I actually struck him out on two 3-2 changeups that were actually middle down, middle. But the thing was, my change was my best pitch, and I just kind of attacked him with my best pitch. And usually that things work out in your advantage. And then as I've gone on, I've gotten better at looking at guys' weaknesses, and hopefully those line up with my strengths. But facing guys that are at the top of their game, the superstars of baseball, it's really cool when you're on the same field as those guys. It's a humbling experience, and it's like, okay, let's see what I got, see how much I belong here. So yeah, that's kind of how I attack those guys. I just really go after them, not try to stand down. Really, it's a battle.
Awesome. Well, one of the things, Chase, we aim to do with the podcast is to highlight some of the good work that people are doing, not only Compassion International, who we are connected with, but I know that a lot of the ball players have their own projects, things that they're passionate about outside of baseball, that they're using, spending their time on. And I'm wondering, do you have anything like that you'd like to talk about, that you're working on with your family, or that you're interested in?
Yeah, my wife and I went to the Philippines 2 years in a row, after my rookie season in 14 and then 2015. And then we have kids, so we haven't been back. But we went there with UPI, and Brian Hummel took us there, invited us on that trip. And we were changed forever. We've been involved with Consider the Lily ever since. It's a house, a lady named Josie adopted these girls into her family, and we've been part of them with donations and just being a part of their family, and how they're transitioning to those girls growing up, coming in from sex trafficking, from some horrible environments, and coming there, and Josie just giving her life for what God has called her to do, to raise these women up to become not just believers, but women that have an advocacy to do better in the world. So that's cool to be a part of that. It's called Consider the Lily. And then we've been with Food for the Hungry the last couple of years, trying to raise money for kids in poverty. That's something that really hits home for us. Is just, we've had 2 kids now. When you see kids that are starving on the side of the street, or something that just really hurts. It really hits me hard, really hard in my heart, because I can't imagine my kids not being able to have food in their stomachs, and be able to get the nutrition they need. And then in Milwaukee last year, we were with Blessings in a Backpack for a little bit, working with them, going to some schools and speaking there. And then where we're going to start something in Toronto this year. I'm not sure exactly what it was going to be, but it was going to be something along the lines of child hunger. So we've been a part of a couple organizations and continue to support them. And now we're getting locked in with Compassion International, just to hopefully help this out with this big crisis we're having in the world with this pandemic, and trying to do this campaign right now, fill the stadium, and get people to donate money for those kids, and get them through this hard time, so they can have food in their stomachs, and they don't have to worry about that. So I think for us, God has given this platform. We're really trying to live within this platform and understand it's a thing that it's happening now, and we have to understand we have to do something. I can't just sit back and store all this treasures on earth up to myself. I've got to really make sure that I am a good steward of what God's loaned me.
Awesome. Yeah, Compassion International, as you mentioned as well, 2.2 million children that they're working with, that are living in poverty around the world. And as I think we've gotten numbers of well over maybe 400 million children living in poverty around the world, and Compassion's able to impact 2.2 million, and there's still so many great needs. And yeah, the Fill the Stadium campaign by Compassion, many of these, they would have added probably 70,000 kids to their Compassion program this year, but they're not able to do that because a lot of the ways they raise money is through events, at the ballparks or stadiums or concerts. And so thank you for mentioning your involvement with them. I think they really have a great work that they're doing, and we're excited to be a part of it through this podcast. So thanks, Chase.
Yeah, you're welcome. I think the biggest thing too, as athletes, is like, okay, it's not so much we want the glory for being involved with these things, is we want to make a difference. We want to do good in the world, and we want people to see that we're helping these kids out, for other people to get involved as well, not just us.
Right, exactly.
Well, Chase, I think about something that would be of interest to many people around the country is what really makes you tick on the inside. And could you tell us a little bit about your relationship with Jesus Christ and how he impacts your life day to day?
Yeah, I think for me is the days that I get in the Word, if it's in the morning or in the night before I go to bed, my whole perspective of the day changes going to the next day or that previous day. And the days that I kind of drift and don't get in the Word or have some kind of connection with the Lord, I can feel my selfish desires, my sinful nature kind of take over, and I know that I'm not in the right frame of mind, and my heart's in the wrong place. I can be short with my wife. I can be short with the kids. It's weird though, but when I when I read the word or get in a devotional, I feel the Lord just kind of give me this calmness, and understand that like He's given me all these things that are such blessings. But it's crazy how when you love something so much, you can be short to anger with those things, like your kids and your wife. So I know that He's when He's directly in my life, and I continue to have that constant communication throughout the day. My days go way better. So that's kind of a way that I connect with the Lord. And I think when my life changed was my dad passed away in 2012. He passed away, just out of nowhere with a heart attack. And then ever since then, I felt the Lord, or that day and that series of events when that happened, that season of life, I felt the Lord calling me in because I felt like I wanted to just kind of curl up in a ball and just kind of go down this path of destruction, do whatever I want to do, not really have anything, because I was wondering, like, why would you do this to me, Lord? It's like those questions you have to have when something happens tragic in your life. Is like, why does this happen to me? Um, but then I found this verse, Proverbs 16:9. When I saw that verse, and it really hit home with me, the heart of the man plans his ways, but the Lord directs his steps. And when that happened, I read that, I was like, okay, this is all part of the plan. Not that it's a good thing my dad passed away, but it's something that drew me in closer to the Lord and what He had for me. I got to be with my wife. Met my wife, got to be with her, had great kids. And I look back on this whole journey since my dad's passed away 8 years ago and look at what the Lord has blessed me with. And His plan continues to be revealed to me on a daily basis. So I think for me, the things that matter the most are the relationship with Him and how you can cultivate that on a daily basis. And I can see the difference when I'm in the Word and when I'm not in the Word, and how my life reflects that. Because we're called to be hearers of the Word, but also doers. So I think you have to live it out. You have to show that example, and when you can do that, the fruits of your labor are definitely more evident. So the Lord's been gracious to me, and He continues to be. So yeah, I'm very thankful to have this relationship with a Savior that saved us from so many things we've done wrong. Um, and that's what I tell people. We ask when if they ask the question, why am I the way I am? And I tell them, because I'm honestly deep in my core, I'm jacked up, I'm wretched, I'm messed up. But I have this guy named Jesus Christ who's a Savior. He saved me for these things, so I can be free in that, and I can live with Him and have that connection, and that the Holy Spirit lives within me. And one day I get to see Him face to face, and I'm looking forward to that.
Thanks, Chase. That's awesome. That's awesome. And it's amazing to think about, in the midst of such heartache, the loss of your dad. You're in college at that time, or
I was in my third year of pro ball.
oh, third year
Yeah,
pro ball. Okay.
yeah. I was going to Double A that year. I was hurt the previous season.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, just amazing that God was able to work in your heart in the midst of such heartache. I mean, that's, obviously hard, and I'm sure he was, fairly young if you were only in your third year of pro ball. So,
Yeah, 58 years old, so he's pretty young.
yeah, yeah. And then your first start in the big leagues is on Mother's Day,
I know.
which is, what a gift. What a gift.
Yeah, it's pretty
That's
cool.
awesome. That's
You just
awesome.
looking back at all these things, and how like the God always has His handiwork and this stuff, and it's never on accident.
Yeah, exactly. Greg and Tim, we're very fortunate to have Chase today. I don't want to cut us short, but I know Chase has been gracious to give us his time, and certainly thankful for it. And continued good luck, Chase, as you complete your prep for hopefully what will soon be a late spring training and a late start to the season. But we'll keep that as a hope as we go forward, and continue to face the difficulties of this time, but also the hope that we have in Christ and in good representatives of the game like yourself, Chase. Thanks for being with us.
No, I appreciate it, guys. Thank you guys for having me on. It's a pleasure, and I hope baseball starts up soon, and we can continue doing what we love to do. That's for sure. And praying for you guys and praying for you, Bobby, that you land somewhere and get back in baseball like you want to, because you got the secret sauce, man. 3 World Series is pretty impressive.
Well, we'd love to add to that. That's for sure. So
No doubt about it.
Thanks, Chase.
Well,
That's
thanks so
awesome.
much, guys, for being with us today. And Tim and Bobby and I will be back next week. We look forward to you joining us once again. But until then, God bless you all, and may the Lord keep you and may He watch over you for the rest of the week.